If Arthur Schopenhauer was alive today, he wouldn't be arguing in comment sections about high-value men and female nature. He'd be quietly watching, taking notes, and then dropping one brutal conclusion. Most men are not destroyed by women. They're destroyed by their own illusions about women. That's exactly why a video like this is uncomfortable, not because it exposes females, but because it exposes how easily you hand over your mind, your time, and your future in the name of love, chemistry, and she's different. In this episode of Seductive Wisdom, we're going to break down how Schopenhauer's dark view of women and romantic love can actually be used as a filter to protect you, without turning you into a bitter, woman-hating cliché. We'll look at how desire blinds your judgment, how idealization makes you ignore obvious red flags, and how nature decorates the bait so well that you walk into the trap smiling. The point here isn't to convince you that all women are bad, it's to make sure you stop being naive, stop worshiping your feelings, and start seeing the power you keep giving away. Before we go any further, I want you to be honest in the comments. And have your experiences with women made you more romantic, more bitter, or more cautious? Just write romantic, bitter, or cautious. And if you already feel that there are things women don't want men to fully understand about attraction, loyalty, and power, type seductive wisdom. So I know you're not here for comfort. You're here for clarity. If Schopenhauer could sit next to you right now, he wouldn't start by talking about women in general. He'd start by talking about you. Specifically, how quickly your logic disappears the moment a woman triggers your desire. You can be disciplined with money, cautious with business, strategic with friends. And then one woman smiles at you, gives you attention, or understands you. And suddenly all that sharp thinking goes soft. You ignore inconsistencies, justify disrespect, excuse red flags, and call it being in love or giving her a chance. That's what he meant in essence, not that women are magical manipulators, but that men willingly turn them into a blind spot. Women become your blind spot when you stop evaluating and start worshiping. You don't look at patterns, you look at moments. You don't judge by character, you judge by how she makes you feel. Schopenhauer would say, that's exactly where nature wants you. Intoxicated enough to ignore reality, attached enough to sacrifice years, money, and peace for someone you never truly studied. And the brutal part is this, she might not even be doing anything special. She's just being herself. You are the one who hands over the power by shutting off the part of your mind that questions, measures, and sets limits. The message here isn't never trust women. It's never trust your own mind when you refuse to see clearly. The moment you decide she's different, she would never do that. You've already created a blind spot. Schopenhauer wants you to notice how fast you do that, how early you do that, and how expensive it becomes later. Women don't need to hide this video from you. Your own desire already does that job. The day you stop letting attraction turn off your awareness is the day women stop being your blind spot and become what they actually are. Human beings you can love, respect, and assess without losing yourself. Schopenhauer's most uncomfortable claim is simple. What you call romantic love is very often nature using you, not rewarding you. He believed that the intensity you feel around a woman, the obsession, the fantasies, the jealousy, the constant overthinking, is not proof that she's your soulmate, but proof that your biology has grabbed the steering wheel. In his view, the species wants to continue and it doesn't care if you are happy in the process. So it wraps reproduction inside a powerful illusion. I can't live without her. She's the one. Nothing has ever felt like this. You think you're chasing deep spiritual fulfillment. In reality, you might just be chasing chemistry programmed to feel like destiny. Look at your own life. The hardest you ever fell for someone. Did it always line up with logic, compatibility, and long-term peace? Or did it feel more like a storm? Obsessive thoughts, anxiety, high highs and low lows, ignoring obvious problems because the emotional pull was too strong? That's exactly the pattern Schopenhauer was warning about. The more irrational the attachment, the more we romanticize it. It's crazy but real. No one understands what we have. He would say, no, what's crazy is how fast you're willing to sacrifice your sanity for a feeling you've never tested against reality. Seeing romantic love as a potential trap doesn't mean you never love. It means you stop giving automatic authority to your strongest emotions. You learn to ask, even at the peak of desire, if this is nature's bait, what's the hook? What am I about to trade away? Does this connection still make sense when I subtract the physical attraction and the fantasy? Most men never ask those questions until it's too late. Schopenhauer's challenge is that you ask them before you sign your life away. So love becomes a choice you make with open eyes, not a sentence you walk into under the influence. Schopenhauer's harshest mirror isn't aimed at women. It's aimed at the story you build around them. You don't fall in love with a random stranger. You fall in love with a carefully edited narrative in your head. She becomes not like other women, the only one who gets me, pure and different, too kind to ever betray me. You take a few real traits, her smile, her attention, a few deep conversations, and then you glue fantasies onto them. Loyalty she hasn't proven yet. Depth you haven't really seen, values you haven't tested, stability she's never had to demonstrate. By the time reality shows up, you're not hurt by who she is. You're hurt by the illusion you refuse to let go of. Schopenhauer would say this: you are the architect of your own heartbreak. You ignore how she talks about other men, how she handles conflict, how she treats people she doesn't need. You ignore the way she flirts with attention, the way she avoids responsibility, the way she lives in chaos and calls it just my personality. Why? Because your craving for connection is louder than the evidence. You don't want data, you want a dream. So you filter every red flag through one sentence: yeah, but she's special. In that moment, you're not a victim of her nature, you're a victim of the story you built and protected. The uncomfortable truth this video is pointing at is simple. She's not the only one hiding things. You are too. You're hiding the parts of her that don't fit your fantasy. You're editing, deleting, and rewriting reality so you can keep feeling what you want to feel. Schopenhauer's message isn't hate women for disappointing you. It's stop lying to yourself about who they are. The day you drop the illusion and look at a woman as she actually behaves, not as you hope she'll eventually become, is the day you stop being easy to break. At that point, if you choose her, you're choosing with full awareness, and if you walk away, you're not running from love. You're walking away from a story that never matched the truth. Schopenhauer believed something most men don't want to hear. Women rarely hurt men suddenly. They hurt them gradually through loss of respect. And that loss doesn't explode. It leaks. It shows up in small tone shifts, tiny eye rolls, subtle sarcasm, and little jokes that cut deeper than they seem. Most men ignore these signs because they're still emotionally invested, still chasing the version of her they fell for. What they don't realize is that once a woman's respect for you drops, everything else begins to decay in silence. Watch how she reacts when you set a boundary. Does she listen? Or does she mock you, guilt you, or twist the situation so you become the villain? Watch how she speaks to you when she's angry. Does she attack the problem, or does she attack your character? Respect isn't tested when things are calm. It's tested when she's emotionally charged. If she feels safe enough to belittle you, insult you, ignore you, or play power games, That means she already sees you as someone she can push without consequence. Schopenhauer would say, this is where contempt begins, and once it settles in, it almost never reverses, and then there's power. Women don't need physical or financial power to dominate a relationship. Emotional leverage is often enough. If she knows you're afraid to lose her, afraid to speak up, afraid to walk away, she has power. Not because she's evil, but because human nature always tests what is weak. When a woman senses you will tolerate anything just to keep the connection alive, the relationship shifts into a hierarchy. She becomes the chooser, and you become the option trying to prove your worth. That imbalance kills attraction, erodes respect, and eventually becomes quiet contempt. The point isn't to fear women. It's to understand the dynamic. You can't demand respect and you can't negotiate it. You earn it by being a man who has boundaries, discipline, mission, and the ability to leave if necessary. Schopenhauer's message is not that women are heartless. It's that they respond to strength the same way men respond to beauty. If you become weak, they lose interest. If you stay grounded, they stay aligned. Understanding this doesn't make you cold. It makes you impossible to mentally collapse just because someone's affection faded. Schopenhauer's ideas are brutally sharp, but if you follow them blindly, you'll end up bitter, paranoid, and emotionally dead. The exact opposite of what makes a man powerful. His philosophy cuts through illusions, yes, but if you take his worldview as an absolute truth, you stop seeing women as human beings and start seeing them as enemies, and that's where most men fail. They either worship women or resent them. They either idealize or demonize. Schopenhauer's real value is neither. His value is in helping you find the middle point, the place where you're no longer naive, but you're not hateful either. To use Schopenhauer wisely, you have to understand what he wasn't. He wasn't a man who figured out women. He was a man who never learned how to connect with them without fear. His philosophy is brilliant, but it's also deeply shaped by his loneliness, his disappointments, his mistrust. You shouldn't imitate his emotional wounds. You should extract the lessons from them. The lesson isn't avoid women. The lesson is avoid illusions. The lesson isn't never love. The lesson is don't love blindly. The lesson isn't women are the problem. The lesson is your inability to see clearly is the problem. So how do you use this without becoming cold or bitter? First, you learn to observe patterns instead of fantasies. You watch a woman's actions, not her promises. You pay attention to how she handles conflict, responsibility, temptation, and pressure. You let her reveal who she is over time instead of deciding who she is in your mind. That alone eliminates 80% of heartbreaks. Second, you stop giving away power you haven't earned. You don't make her your emotional center. You don't rearrange your life for someone you barely know. You don't trade your peace for chemistry. You don't negotiate your boundaries out of fear. Finally, you remember this. Schopenhauer saw women as dangerous mostly because he never learned how to hold his own ground. You are not required to repeat that mistake. When you're a man with standards, direction, self-respect, and emotional discipline, women stop being traps and become mirrors. They reflect your level. They reflect your strength. They reflect your clarity. Use Schopenhauer's warnings to stay awake, not to stay alone. The goal isn't to avoid women. The goal is to avoid becoming the kind of man who gets destroyed by them. If you've made it this far, then you already understand the real message behind Schopenhauer's harsh words. The danger was never women. The danger was the illusions you create around them. The blindness, the fantasy, the worship, the refusal to see clearly. That's what breaks men, drains years of their lives, and leaves them confused and bitter. The moment you stop romanticizing and start observing, everything changes. You stop falling for beauty without character. You stop mistaking chemistry for compatibility. You stop giving loyalty to someone you barely know. And most importantly, you stop sacrificing your sanity for a story you invented. Now I want you to answer something honestly in the comments. Which part of this hit you the hardest? The blind spot, the trap of romantic love, the illusion you build, the loss of respect, or the danger of becoming bitter like Schopenhauer? Just write the keyword no explanations, no paragraphs, just one word that tells me where your awareness woke up. And if this video made you see women, and yourself, with sharper eyes, type seductive wisdom. So I know you're part of the men who don't want comfort. They want clarity. Before you scroll away, save this video and send it to one man you care about, especially the one who keeps falling for the same type, repeating the same heartbreak and calling it bad luck. Help him see what you're starting to see, that women aren't your enemy, but your illusions can be. And the day you break those illusions is the day you finally become a man who loves with awareness, chooses with strength, and never loses himself again.